Welcome everybody to Three Obstacles to Joy. This is Connie Hertz, and I'm so happy you're joining me tonight. Obviously, if you're on this webinar, you too would like to hear about what are some obstacles to joy, what are some shortcuts to live in joy, and to live most of your present moments there. So before we get started, we'll do a couple little housekeeping items. Hopefully you all have a pad of paper and a pen because we will be doing some exercises. You might want to jot some notes down. This is being recorded, so if you would like to just take notes and watch the recording later, that's fine. And those of you that are joining us after the live presentation, you've already received the recording. So anyway, you know, life happens, right? It gets in the way of lots of things. And I am someone that has not always lived within joy in my world. Here is me. I had a really fun photo shoot a couple years ago. The photographer was a lot of fun, and it's my most joyful picture, so I thought I'd add it to this presentation tonight. Now, this adds a little bit of humor. I wanted this to be here as well. I'm sure that you don't always feel this way, stressed out, not to this degree, but sometimes you might, right? Sometimes you just might. Let's see. So there are times that we all get to this degree. You know, we don't, I'm sure most of our moments we live somewhere, you know, way less than this. But, you know, when these moments happen, they interfere with our joy. I mean, how can you feel joy and be stressed out at the same time? You can't, right? I liked this one, so I thought I'd add this in. You know, joy is, there's a lot of other feelings and thoughts about joy. Just a really cool slide. So a little bit about me. I am wondering if each of you remember, do you remember exactly where you were at on 9/11 when the Twin Towers were being hit? Yeah, I do too. On 9/11, as that second tower was being hit, my husband of 20 years and the father of our two children pulled up with a U-Haul, and he was leaving me for a 27-year-old. So you can imagine what happened for me that day. I went into shock. I went into all kinds of feelings, so much fear, more fear than I'd ever known in my life. As the United States of America was crumbling down, so was my life as I knew it. It was very painful for me. It wasn't fun in any shape or form. There was no joy present, of course. How could there be in the presence of this immense fear? My daughter was a senior in high school that year, and my son was a sophomore in college. So she was there, and she was present for what was taking place in the United States of America, and also as her father was leaving. I lived in anger, bitterness, fear for quite some time afterwards. And it was destroying me. And I don't know how many of you have ever lived in a deep depression or despair or such fear that you really only could live from one second to the next. But that's where I was at this point in time. The anger and the bitterness, like I said, was destroying me. And one of my friends said, Connie, you need some help. I was seeing a therapist at the time, but if you've ever gone through therapy, it can be slow going and you just rehash, stuff that's going on. And I'm not putting therapy down, because there is a time and place for that for people. But for me right now, I needed something to jump in and help me to move as quickly forward in my world as I could. So my friend knew of a personal growth class that she had been through, and I was not a stranger to personal growth. In 1974, I participated in my first personal growth class when I was 19 years old. I learned how to meditate, and I learned a lot of beautiful things about the spiritual aspects of life. And here it was again, it was time for me to participate with a personal growth class. And this happened to be a 3-day class. And as I was in this class, it was the Friday evening. Whoops, I forgot to show you this. This is how I felt for a long, long time until I went to this personal growth class. So the first evening of the personal growth class, there was a gentleman that was up at the podium, and he was a participant, and he was speaking about how his wife had left him for a man that, was younger. And I'm thinking, okay, he knows exactly how I feel. So I'm kind of sitting on the edge of my seat. When he said it was 22 years before that she had left, I burst into tears, because I realized in that moment, this pivotal moment for my life, that this would be me in 22 years, carrying this anger and hatred and bitterness towards my ex-husband and his now wife. I would have been carrying this forward, and that wasn't an option for me. I was not going to destroy myself and bring people down around me. And I never got to thank this man, because even after 22 years, he wasn't ready to move forward. He wasn't ready to give up his bitterness and his anger and his hatred. He left the class that night, and we had 2 days left. I didn't get to thank him. So I don't know to this moment whether he ever gave that up or not, but I know for me, I did. And this is what I chose to do by the end of that class. I will choose joy. I didn't exactly know how to live within that joy like I do today. It takes practice, and it takes some of the tools that I'm going to share with you today to achieve this type of joy. Only I knew it started with a decision. So by the end of this short presentation tonight, you all will have learned how to explore. You're going to explore 3 big obstacles to joy and begin to recognize them and overcome them. You're going to learn shortcuts to joy and do it in as little as 17 seconds. And we're going to go through the emotional scale, and hopefully you'll all print that out once this webinar is done and utilize it in your life. It's something that I had sent in the notifications leading up to this meeting, so you all have it. So here are 3 obstacles to joy that I identified. Now, obviously, there are lots more that you could probably think of as well, but accepting limiting beliefs in our lives, that's a big one. A belief is really only a thought that we continue to think. A belief is only a thought that we continue to think. So if you're accepting a limiting belief, it's becoming part of your life. And I did that when I was a young girl. Beating yourself up, that was something I was really famous for. I was really good at beating myself up and making myself wrong. and not loving myself. I think all three of these go hand in hand, and they're definitely huge obstacles to living in the kind of joy that will really set you free and help you to become the person that you were meant to be and live within the joy that we all are deserving of. This is me as a little girl. I was a beautiful little baby. And the reason I'm showing you this is because shortly after this, I started believing and living within my first limiting belief. I was the third baby of 6 born to my mom. And all of the babies other than me had blonde hair and blue eyes. I was born with coal black hair and big blue eyes, as you can see. My mom told the story as I was growing up that when I was born, she told the nurse, take this baby back. She is not my baby. She's either black or Mexican, but she's not my baby. Well, me as a little girl, I began believing my first limiting belief. And I continued that on, that I didn't matter, that I didn't fit in, I didn't belong in that family, really until adulthood. And even now, I can go back into that when I'm someplace new that is unfamiliar, that I might not feel comfortable in, I don't feel secure in. Only today, the difference is I know the tools to move me through those kinds of feelings. And I recognize when I'm within those types of feelings today. And I'm sure all of you, I know all of you accepted limiting beliefs when you were a kid, right? I'm sure you may know them. Sometimes you don't know what they are. But I know that everybody has accepted some limiting beliefs that has really affected their entire life. This is me a little bit later, when I was a toddler. I remember standing on a stool when I was about this age, looking in the bathroom mirror, because I couldn't reach the mirror. I couldn't see in it without standing on a stool. And I would look in the mirror and say, I hate you, to myself. My older sister, being a sibling, like siblings do, would hear this story from mom and dad, or from mom, and she would make fun of me. And she would say I was adopted, I didn't fit in this family, I didn't belong. And I would cry and cry and cry. When I went to that first personal growth class I told you about in 1974, one of the exercises that they gave all of us, was to go home and look in the mirror every day and look in our own eyes and say, I love you. I love you. And for me, for a long, long time, I would do it. I would look in the mirror and say, I love you, but I would cry. I would sob, like heaving sobs, for a long, long time. Now today, I can look in the mirror and say, I love you. It took a while. It was a process. It was a new discipline. So I'm going to ask each of you to take this one on and see what you think when you're looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, to yourself. Right now, I'd like you to take out your pen and paper. Write down 3 things that you can do within the next day or two, that you will absolutely do, that will show yourself that you love yourself. Now, one of them is this exercise I just shared with you that I did, looking in the mirror in your own eyes and saying, I love you. So that you've already got one. So write that down, the mirror exercise. And then I'm going to give you just maybe about 40 seconds to write down 2 other things. It could be, getting out and doing some type of exercise that you keep saying you're going to do. It could be, not eating a bunch of sugar and junk food. I don't know. could be writing in a gratitude journal. Whatever it is, make a commitment right now to yourself. And I'm going to give you about 40 seconds. So go ahead and start right now. Ten seconds. Okay, stop. All right, I am going to unmute you. And I'd like a few of you to share right now, what is it that you came up with? Just give me one of them, other than the mirror exercise. Hi, Carol, thanks. Yeah. Okay, that's a great one, thanks. Hi, Sue. Yeah, thank you. Oh yeah, that's a good one too. Kathy, hi. Yeah, thank you. All right, well, great. I am going to go ahead and mute all of you again, and we're going to move on. Okay. So here are 3 things that you can do often, no matter where you're at. When you discover that you're accepting a limiting belief, when you're feeling something fearful, when you're afraid of whatever it is, press the pause button. And what I mean by that is to slow down, become aware of what your emotions are, where you're at, then they're not in your highest and best good and they're not serving you. Take a deep breath, breathe, because when we do take deep breaths, what happens is our body gets a whole bunch of oxygen that moves through your bloodstream, and it actually helps lower your blood pressure. You know, and I'm a former oncology nurse is my background, and I learned this early on. Breathing is extremely important. And then stop and appreciate. Look around you for at least 17 seconds. And there's been some studies that as you can just focus on something you appreciate for at least 17 seconds, what's going to happen is things are going to shift and change for you, and it'll start things swirling in the right direction of what it is that you want to have in your life. And for an example, a client of mine, Cindy, had a high stress job. It was really taking a toll on her with her workmates and her family life as well. And so what she started to do was, she couldn't really stop and look around while she was in her office. She would have to go to the bathroom and have a few seconds alone. And while she's in the bathroom stall, she will stop at least for 17 seconds and think of things she appreciates. And she'd do this many, many times throughout her day. And as her days went on, within less than a week, things started changing and shifting within Cindy's life. Her family noticed a difference in her behavior and her attitude, and so did her coworkers. She was lighter. She didn't feel so stressed out and bogged down. So these are some things that you can do. Write this down, pause button, deep breath, and 17 seconds. Just write that down really quickly. I know you're each going to be getting this recording, but I'd like you to begin this now, even before I send the recording to you. Here's the emotional scale that I use in literally everything that I teach. I didn't come up with this scale. This is not mine. But when I first saw it, I adopted it and I use it. I can picture it in my mind all the time, no matter where I'm at. And I pay attention to where I'm at. See, we're all energy beings, every single one of us. And every emotion we have carries a vibration. And on the left-hand side of the scale, with joy, love, appreciation being the highest vibrational emotions. And then on the right-hand side, fear, grief, depression, despair, and powerlessness are the lowest vibrational emotions. It's not fun to be on that right side of the emotional scale, although we're all human, so we are going to be on that right side of the scale probably every day. Now, we may not be down at number 22 where I was at in 2001 and 2 when, you know, my ex-husband left and I was going through all of the emotions I already described to you. That's where I was at. Now, it's very difficult to raise your emotions when you're way down there at number 22 to that left-hand side of the scale. But I can guarantee you that even if you are at number 22 and you can stop and look around yourself even for the 17 seconds or longer and find something to appreciate, you're going to move up that scale in vibration. You know, even anger and revenge are higher than fear and grief and depression as far as what vibrations they put off. For myself, number 10 is something I go back to quite often, is frustration, impatience, and irritation. I do know when I'm within these feelings. So when I recognize that, let's say when I'm driving, if you've got some goofy drivers that are really driving, you know, slow or in a manner that's they're cutting me off, I will find this frustration. I don't have the greatest patience for, I'd say, a lot of things, I guess, in life. I don't know, whatever that's about, but I do have to continually work on this. So I'm aware when this crops up for me. And I use either humor, you know, like just make a funny joke about whatever for myself and find myself laughing, or the appreciation seems to be the easiest for me. And it will bring me over to the left-hand side of that emotional scale pretty quickly. We can find ourselves bouncing between these two sides many, many times a day. So, print this off. I really urge you to print it off and utilize this emotional scale on a regular basis, like every day. This is a simple doorway, and I call appreciation a doorway to get to that other side of the scale. Like I said, I'm a visual person, so I can picture this doorway quite often, that, yeah, it's time to use the doorway of appreciation to help me shift and change where I'm at. If I'm not in a place where I'm feeling really good about whatever is going on, I know how to change and shift this. So this is what this is about. So I'm going to take you through about a minute exercise, and I'm going to have you write down everything that you appreciate. I actually write in a gratitude journal every morning. I would urge you to start writing in a gratitude journal, whether it's in the morning to set your day up or at the end of the day to end your day in that manner. Because actually physically writing down what you're grateful for, it truly helps shift where you're at. So, okay. Right now, I want you to write down, without thinking about it, a number 1 to 10 where your mood is at right now, with 10 being the highest vibration, like love, joy, appreciation, and 10 being on that right side of the scale. Where are you at right now? Just write a number down. Okay? All right, now I'm going to time you for a minute, and I'll let you know at a 10-second mark like I did before. Write down everything that you appreciate. All right, Start now. Ten seconds. Stop. All right. Now, I want you to rate your mood after you wrote everything you appreciated without thinking about it on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are you at right now? Write down the number, and I'm going to unmute you. All right. So, would a few of you just call out the beginning number and the ending number? Oh, thanks, Carol. You started at a 6 and you're at an 8. Awesome. Lisa, you were at a 5 and you went up to a 7. Great. Kathy, you started at an 8 tonight and now you're at a 10. That's awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to mute you back for right now. So, do you all see how quick and easy that was? That being appreciative, writing what you're grateful for down, if you use this every day, it will change. I guarantee it'll transform who you are. Just like Cindy, that she saw a difference within less than a week. And she's in a very high stress job, fast-paced, stressful job. So we covered 3 obstacles to joy, 3 of the obstacles to joy that I think are obstacles to joy. We went through some exercises. You wrote down some things that will help shift and change your world and help you love yourself and not beat yourself up. This was just a really quick webinar tonight. I wanted to do this because I want to follow up with everybody, and I'm going to be giving everybody about 30 minutes. I'll take my time to have conversations with all of you that would like it and find out what is it that you would like some suggestions for, and where are you at. I know that as each of us share who we are, what our gifts are, because we all have gifts, right? Every single one of us. We're all similar in a lot of ways, but we all have individual gifts. And when we own those and start sharing them, we're going to be making a difference, not only in our own individual lives, but with others around us. So eventually we'll be raising the vibration of this whole planet, which all of us know needs this right now very, very much. And my goal is to reach out one person at a time, through my Kauai retreat that I offer in October. It's small and intimate. I have women's circles here in my home every month, and then the coaching I do in groups or individual. It's really important for each of you to own your gifts and to begin sharing them in whatever way that you can. Here's a quote that I wrote a while ago. I believe when you consciously find appreciation for others and express it, things will upset you less and less. In turn, others will begin to show you appreciation, and before you know it, you will be surrounded with many people who are appreciating you. Much better place to live, right? And joy is not in things, it's in each one of us. It begins with each one of us. I just wanted to show you this quick picture because I've been with Hale now for 13 years. This is Hale and me. This was my 60th birthday almost 2 years ago. My daughter Abby, my son Adam, my mom and dad, and my granddaughter Olivia Rose. My grandson Reed, who's 7 months now, wasn't of course born then. And then we have our older grandson from Hale's son, who is turning 14 soon, and Phoebe, who's 11. So lots of joy in my life. I do have lots of feelings that go on throughout my world, and I push through being vulnerable, like to do this webinar tonight, creates a piece of vulnerability of who I am to put myself out there. When I write my blogs every week, I'm becoming vulnerable. Only these are ways, some of the ways that I know I need to share and give back and share some of the gifts that I have. You know, during this time frame here in this picture, one of my coaches, which I've had many coaches, I think everybody needs a coach, maybe for different areas, but she had suggested for my 60th birthday 2 years ago that I throw myself a party and celebrate myself. And I thought that was the weirdest idea. I thought, how in the world could I do that? That's really conceited. My daughter actually came from New York and did the party, did everything. You know, I ordered the food and that, and we had a blast. And I learned that day that we all need to celebrate ourselves, honor ourselves in some way. And it's not conceited. It isn't. It's a way to say, you know, I love you to ourselves and to allow others to celebrate us. It's not an easy thing to do, even still now for me, but I would urge each of you to pay attention to that too. When you accomplish something really fun and cool and amazing in your life, stop long enough to celebrate yourself and celebrate and bask in those feelings of that celebration. That's one of the things that I know will help us move forward in our joyful journey here on this planet. So with that, before I end, I am going to open this back up, and I would love to hear from some of you. I've got you unmuted now. I'd love for you to share with us what maybe you took away from tonight, and any questions you have. So go ahead. All right, cool. That was wonderful. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you being on tonight. Now, look for the recording to come, and I will be reaching out to all of you as well. And I will be, you know, contacting you and seeing if there's anything further I can help you with. All right. So lots of love and blessings to every one of you. Thanks a lot.